Good morning. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Women Thrive Monday for the Colorado Women's Chamber. I am so psyched that I have my other curly-haired friend, Linda, with me today, although her hair is much cooler than mine.
Yeah.
So, Linda, thanks so much for being with us today. Do you want to tell everyone? I mean, I know a lot of people already know who you are, but do you want to give our audience just a brief glimmer into who you are?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. So Linda Appel Lipsius, I'm the co-founder of Teatulia Organic Teas. So started this business about 14 years ago. And it's a business we do hot teas and we do canned teas, and we're sold in grocery and restaurants when they open back up. But we're a B Corp. We source our teas from our own 3,000 acre regenerative organic tea garden. We're sort of hardcore, sustainability cred, as well as amazing product and, kind of fun distribution. I also started the Mamahood, which is a resource for new and expecting moms and their families, that is up in Lohi, 29th and Zuni, and another business that I'm super passionate and proud of. We support moms through breastfeeding, childbirth ed, yoga, amazing shopping and retail, even if you're not pregnant. And really it's all about community and moms supporting moms. So
That's so
that's what I
awesome.
do.
I mean, and the whole thing about community for moms right now is so important. I feel like we're all just kind of panicking with school going back and not really knowing what to do. And I do feel like a lot of people are sort of grasping for a community. So that's such an amazing concept that you have. And then you're also part of a rare few in Colorado that has grown your business over $1 million in revenue, which is one of the reasons why I'm so excited to have our audience hear from you today, because it's a real problem. Less than 1% of women-owned businesses get over $1 million in revenue, and you've done it beautifully with Teatulia. And just kind of, I don't know, talk about how you got there.
Well, it was so easy and everything went according to plan.
Right,
I mean,
I know.
I don't have anything to say. Oh my gosh, blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, I have the good fortune to come also from a family business that was pretty successful. We were really lucky, and I was able to sort of see a large business be built, and the slog that goes into that, but also learn from my family and kind of a lot of really good things. So I kind of came into this honestly, and I think maybe the biggest thing with this stuff is if you start with the end in mind, right? If you go in thinking that this is a business that can be mighty, you're halfway there, because so much of it, I think, is just like visioning and imagining yourself and your business, sort of at doing great things. Sorry, I have to adjust my necklace.
Go for it.
And so that was probably a big part of it. And so we kind of always set off intending to be a national brand, intending to be a brand with, impact and a voice. So and it was interesting how it evolved, and focusing on Teatulia now. So how it started is we figured we'd just be a tea shop brand. But as we dug into it, realized that actually wasn't as interesting of a market as we thought. And also we were coming from a new growing region, and it was a bit of a hurdle for sort of hardcore tea people to understand that, great things can come from Bangladesh. So we're like, let's go directly to consumers. And so once we decided to go into grocery, there's tens of thousands of points of distribution across the country. So the potential is there, for significant volume and significant business. So that was probably, deciding to go into retail was a big thing. I think being flexible on your plan is definitely critical, because, like I say, tea shops didn't happen. So we pivoted, went to retail. Then we get this opportunity in food service and restaurants. Came out of nowhere. We didn't have it set up, and we're like, okay, why not? Let's figure it out. That's turned out to be, at least pre-COVID, the biggest part of our business, but having some really great opportunities for sales, but also for sort of introduction, PR, like implicit endorsement from the food service operators, from fine dining to fast casual restaurants. So long answer to your question, but I mean, it's just, I think it's being flexible. It's having the idea that you're in this to win it. And then taking advice from everyone, you can on how to get there.
It's amazing when you think about that too, Linda, because I think, a lot of women start businesses, or at least they had in the past, right? From like, oh, hey, I'm going to do this thing because maybe I've left corporate, or maybe I'm going to go home and I want to have more time with my children. And I think they get into it, and then, in spite of themselves, sometimes it grows. But I think of that all the time, like even in my own career and even being at the chamber, we don't think like that. Like, it's not always our mindset of, I'm going to go in this and I'm going to make it big, right? I'm going to make this organization big. It's going to be this amazing brand. And when I say big, that doesn't have to mean, big corporate, but like, in your case, right? It's going to be big and it's going to make an impact, and we're going to do great things, and we're a B Corp, and you can still do all those things and make it big. And I love that, because I don't think that women oftentimes think like that. And I think that that's a mind shift for us that's really, really important. And then also, the flexibility, when something, you said you had that opportunity that came, how do you know? Like, how do you know that that's the right direction to go into? Or are you flexible enough to try it? Like, because, we've certainly dealt with it. Yeah, I know. Like, we've dealt with that at the Women's Chamber. Like, is this the right way to go? Is this the right program to do? I'm not really sure. And we don't have that many resources to just, kind of play around. We don't have an R&D budget or, whatever. And so how did you know?
I think you take a step back, and I mean, you got to make sure you take emotion out of it. But, you look at just the fundamentals of the opportunity, right? So like, when we decided to go into food service, there were so few players, which is good and bad, right? Because it means that the players that are in there are these big institutional players that we were going against. But there had been no new news in beverage or in tea, like 20 years. So we're like, okay, it might be time for some disruption. It's the customers are sticky. Like it's hard to get in, but once you get in, they don't actually change that much. So it's like, so if we could secure this business, that's good. So we were kind of going, and then the economics of it actually are quite different from grocery. And so it's like, so to hedge and protect the business. So we were able to kind of look at the fundamentals and felt that, yes, it's going to be some time and investment, but it actually was worth it. The business was there, the impact was there, the exposure was there. So let's go for it. I think the hardest thing was finding the expertise. I'm still learning. It's a really complicated channel, the food service side. So it's really just making sure you find the people who can sort of shorten your learning curve, so you can have impact and grow the business faster.
Gotcha. Oh, wow. I want to say, pick your brain.
Can I say one other thing too, about like just this imagining your business bigger? Something that I've definitely found sort of, women in business is like, it's almost naughty to like be in it for profit and be in it to earn money. You know what I mean? There's this weird, like kind of, ookiness. And I guess the way that I, challenge women to, especially if you're building an impact business or kind of anything, the bigger it is, the reason I want my businesses to be enormous is, sure, I'd love to make tons of money off of them, but I want a bigger stage. I want a bigger platform to talk and teach about regenerative farming, to teach about clean food, to teach about intentional sourcing. Like that, actually, that's why I want to be bigger. I want to reach more women. I want to reach more consumers, and so growing and being bigger with a better business is a great thing.
That gives me goosebumps, Linda, when I think about like women wanting to do that, right? Because I do think that that is a uniqueness that we bring to business. There's usually, I've always said, like, I don't think I could ever lead an organization that doesn't have something like a mission about it, or something that, is doing something great. And I do think, there's lots of men in that space too. But when I think about that, that gives me goosebumps, because the reason that you want to grow is because you want to talk about what you're doing, and it's not all about making profit. And I think once you imagine what happens when, that sort of mindset saturates business and what it does. And that's amazing. So talk to me just briefly, because, this is a platform. It's not huge, but it's one. What's regenerative farming?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So regenerative farming is, so it's an approach to agriculture that's totally different from conventional farming. And I used to think it was really great and progressive and whatever. It's actually not. It's how farming is supposed to be done. And we sort of the gee whiz science of, chemical pesticides and fertilizers have gotten in the way, and actually really caused tremendous damage. So conventional farming is extractive farming, essentially. So it's, again, you use chemical pesticides and fertilizers, which actually neurotoxins, explosive derivatives. I mean, these are hardcore chemicals that are used to grow the food we eat to nourish our bodies.
Right.
Through the use of these chemicals and pesticides and other farming methods, the soil that the food is grown in dies, because it kills all the microbes, it kills all the healthy organisms.
Everything.
It dies. When you have dead soil, you have nutrient deficient food. When you have nutrient deficient food, you're like, oh, I'm going to eat a salad or a carrot, but it doesn't taste like anything. It doesn't have vitamins and minerals in it, because it's just synthetic almost. So that's conventional farming. Regenerative farming is using farming to literally heal the planet.
Wow.
And it is actually possible. So at our tea garden, my little microcosm of this, there's a practice in Bangladesh called rock lifting. So you go in, and these big operations, they're like digging, with earth movers, they're digging up the earth for concrete for construction. So in a developing world, that's really prevalent. But it utterly destroys the topsoil and it kills the ecosystem. When I was over there last time, there's this huge rock lifting operation. It literally looked like end of days. It was like hot and dry and miserable and awful. Other side of the street is one of our tea gardens. The temperature was cooler. Wow. The air was rich and full of oxygen. There was bugs and birds and plant life everywhere, and the people were smiling. Like it was just, it's this approach to farming that uses, it's more of a systemic approach, uses vermicompost, compost. Right. It's not monocropping. There's actually a movie that's coming out called Kiss the Ground. I actually just posted about this on LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Okay, I'm gonna watch it.
With cute Woody Harrelson narrating, which always helps. So talking about it, and it's just this idea that it's, farming is so much more, and if we can heal the soil, we can heal the planet.
It's amazing. Do you suppose, like, I feel like this is one of those things where consumers will have to drive this, right? Because you're running up against like big corporate, and they have a big vested interest in, keeping it the way it is. Right. Yeah. So is that sort of going to be the approach, like driving it consumer, and then they'll have to force the change?
I mean, I think so. I think that's going, and actually I was just in a working group on this topic yesterday, and we were that's where we netted out. It's like, you need the consumer pull, because this is such a big thing, and there's such economic interest in it. So yeah, trying to think about how we can get the word out and get everyone all jazzed about regenerative ag.
Well, that's awesome. And I can even see, like, when it starts to take off from the consumer, it's kind of like, I was just thinking about like breweries, right? Like there's big breweries, but then all the microbrews started to, I think that was consumer driven too. And then some of even like the bigger breweries were like, okay, well, we're going to do some small stuff too. So maybe it'll all kind of go about that way. So, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Okay. So you just stepped down from Teatulia, right? So what's next? What's that? And so you built it, you're still involved, you're on the board.
Yep. Still involved, advisor, and, sort of at as needed. But yeah, I actually don't know. I did not, I just wanted to, I think with COVID and with the summer sort of as it was, I wanted to take the summer and spend the time with my kids. And also just do a little soul searching and kind of take some time. And, and once they're back in school, we'll start figuring it out. But I've been doing some board work with Denver Urban Gardens, and and some working with you a little bit. So
Well, yeah, you're gonna help us. You're gonna work with the Women's Chamber and serve on our Small Business Advisory Board to help us build women-owned businesses. So that's going to be super exciting. So thank you so much for that. Okay.
Thank you.
Now for the big questions. And we ask these questions because I always find that these questions bring out great teachings. And what I always think from our membership anyway is that we learn best from one another. I don't know. I know, like, I'm learning so much now from you, and just kind of thinking about my business just in talking with you. So with these questions, we always find that there's great teachings that come out of them. So tell us about a time in your life where you've persevered, either personally, professionally, or oftentimes with women, it's both.
Mm-hmm. So it's probably like 3 years ago, and this is business. Just the bottom fell out, like, just, one of my key employees left, and we lost a big account, and it was just one of those, we all have it, these sort of periods where it's just dark and horrible, and like, can I curse on this thing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Fuck yeah.
The shit, yes, the shit just keeps hitting the fan, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like, I just can't,
Right.
can't take it. And, and it was so hard. It was, I'm crying every day. It was whatever. Oh, and then anyway, I had all sorts of bad stuff happen. And, and I think foundationally just remembering, why I'm doing this business, because it's about so much more than just the business or the tea or the whatever. So, had faith in that. Reached out to a lot of people. I started working with a coach for the first time, and then and this might go into the next question, kind of just knowing like this too will pass, right? Like, just as unfortunately it goes the other way, when everything's fantastic, that, my mom always told me that'll pass too. But, just knowing you'll get through it, and just kind of one day at a time, but was able to, sort of rebuild the team way stronger. Put systems in place that needed to be put in place. So, in times of crisis, you really do the work that maybe you hadn't been doing before, and come out stronger. Like, what is it? Build back better.
Yeah, well, it's so interesting that you say that, because I was talking to a good friend of mine, Tamara Ryan, the CEO of the Women's Bean Project. Do you know Tamara?
I know of her, yes.
Yeah, she's great. She's got curly hair too.
Oh, fantastic. We're taking over.
I know, right? So she was saying to me the other day that whatever issues you had pre-COVID, they're just bigger now, and it's a better opportunity to work on them, right? Yeah. So oftentimes crisis shows us issues that we didn't know about that needed to be worked on anyway. And I think for women, we're such masters at navigating chaos and crisis. I don't know. Maybe it's because, you are the one that kind of deals a lot with the kids and the household, and, so maybe we just learned very young to navigate, but it is true. And then when you do it, you come out the other side, and it feels like sometimes as a result of that, you're pretty unstoppable, because you're like, I got it.
Yeah, I got through that, you know? Yeah. And it's not the last time. I mean, what is it? The sharpening the saw, like the 7 habits thing. Like, it's tiring, but it's a work in progress, and it's gonna be bad again. It's gonna be good again. And it could all happen in one day.
Yeah. It's so, and thank you for sharing that story, because it's so important for people to hear that right now. It's going to pass. And if we use this time to invest in whatever COVID is showing us, we will be better on the other side. I truly believe that. So, okay, what about a mantra that you live by?
I think I kind of looped them all in. I mean, it's the word, my brilliant, wise mom, is, when I was in school and sad because the cute boy didn't want to hang out with me or whatever, she's like, sweetie, like, this'll pass. You'll get through it. You'll find what you need. And then in the good times, just keeping your feet on the ground, because it will end. And so just trying to have calmness, and steadiness, which is so hard. But just trying to remember those words at all times.
Awesome. Well, how do you give us some tips for when you're in it and you're super sad and you're not maybe necessarily feeling like it will pass? Give us some tips of how you deal with that.
In the last couple of years, it's funny because I've always been a little bit of a lone wolf, just kind of it's like, we can take it, we can do it, we can do all this.
Right.
I've really worked a lot harder to strengthen my network. I've got a couple of friends I can call and just be like, and I'm very much honestly, if it comes out my mouth, if I can just say it, just the act of saying it, I find very calming and very cleansing
Right.
for me. And not everyone works that way, but like, I just need, I've got a group of folks that I can just, even just my parents,
Hmm.
and just talk to them and sort of vocalize it. And then that alone really gives me clarity. I've
Right.
also started journaling, something
Yeah.
I always wanted to do, but never had the
Hmm.
discipline to do,
Yeah.
which has been unbelievably therapeutic, because you sort of like, you write the journal of like the terrible day, and then the next day you're like, I had a great day, and you're like, oh my
Yeah.
god, like it's so it really does help you know that what was terrible yesterday is not terrible, terrible forever.
Right. It's so
So
true. I remember I have a coach as well. And I don't know, like 6 years ago, maybe he was like, you should try journaling. And I'm like, yeah, it's not really my thing. I don't really do that. And then I went through a divorce and I was like, I couldn't stop journaling, right? Because you
yeah.
have so many emotions going through you all the time. And now I'm addicted because I
Hmm.
think it's exactly what you said. It's the act of saying it, or like, and getting it on paper is like saying it,
Yeah.
releases it somehow.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, go ahead.
And then the other thing which you can appreciate, is exercise. Like I've
Yes.
always run. I've always, said it's my drug. And like now I'm cycling with nice people.
Hmm.
And that's something that throughout everything I have always defended. Like I get up early. I work out almost every day, because you need that time, you need the oxygen, you need the clarity. And so that, I mean, of all the things I do and wish more people did, is like religiously commit to getting workouts in, and preferably first thing, so you can sort of clear your head
Yeah.
for the day.
Well, it's the only time that we have as women, I find sometimes. Like
Oh yeah.
we'll put everything else first. It's the
Yeah,
only time that we don't have anything else coming at us that we can preserve. So, yeah.
exactly. So
Oh,
yeah.
oh my gosh, Linda, thank you so much. This has been
Thank
amazing.
you.
And we
This was a
will
blast.
release this on Monday and we'll share it with
Okay.
you. And thank you for doing this interview with the Women's Chamber. I know all members will benefit just like I do every time I talk to you. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me and for the work you do.
Oh,
All
thanks.
right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.